Welcome back to the It's Too Easy podcast. I'm Zach. It's my brother Jake, and we're mostly just going to be going through some of the free agency moves for the NFL today. Although I did want to start out by saying, how about the Magic? We are up
Yeah.
2.5 games now with 15 to go. Orlando's getting it done. It might be the best team in the league. Yeah, I don't know. We might have to watch out, see what happens there. But Jake, what were some of the biggest free agency moves for the NFL that you've seen so far?
Yeah. NFL obviously a ton of moves happening so far since free agency's happened for the past week, 2 weeks. Kind of going to go position by position. Starting off with the quarterbacks, obviously the biggest headlines were Kirk Cousins got traded to the Falcons or signed to the Falcons. I don't know exactly what it was, but either way, he's going to be a Falcon next year. They have a lot of good pieces that they picked up that we'll kind of go along and talk about as well. But I think that they're doing a good job of building around Kirk. They gave him a solid contract that'll should retire him a Falcon, and hopefully, they can get some winning seasons going and kind of get them pushed back in the right direction. Darnold to the Vikings. Obviously, Darnold didn't really get any opportunity with the Niners, and you were hot on him, thinking that he would probably give the Niners a better shot to win than Purdy. And this is going to be a good chance for him with Minnesota. I don't think they really have a true QB1 now, and so Darnold's going to get a shot to put himself back into that conversation. I think with the Vikings, they have a decent squad. So as long as Justin Jefferson and some of these other guys can get along with him and make that connection, then I think they'll be all right on offense. But defensively, it's going to be a different test for them this year. Russell Wilson obviously signed to the Steelers. That was huge. I think the Steelers are paying like $2 million of his contract, which is crazy considering he's
So,
getting paid like $50 million a year or something like that.
mhm.
So it's absurd that he's basically playing as a Steeler for free. But good on the Steelers. They've had no quarterback since Big Ben's retired, basically. So for 5-6 years now, they've been playing with the best defense probably in the NFL. Um, but they have no offensive scheme whatsoever. And finally, they got rid of their offensive coordinator and they started to turn things back around a little bit last season. But I think with this addition of Russell Wilson, it'll get them some experience and some veteran leadership in the team. And whether or not I like Russ, he is a proven player. So I do think that they will be able to win no matter what with how good that defense is. So I do really like that move for Russ. I think that's a really strategic move on his part, considering that defense is definitely going to be top three next season. Then Baker re-signed with Tampa. I love that move. We talked about it a lot last season that we knew that Baker was going to get picked up for somewhere between 25 to 35 million. That he wasn't the $50 million a year quarterback, and he knew it. I think that what he did was awesome. I think that leaves a lot of room for them to re-sign guys like Mike Evans that they did. So I
Mhm.
think that makes a lot of sense for the Bucks. It also gives them a lot of room to build offensive line, defensive line around them because that felt kind of like that's where they were lacking that, and then in the secondary the last couple of years. So yeah, I really like that Baker's re-signing with Tampa. I like that they got him for a good price, and I think that the contract makes a lot of sense. And then the last quarterback that really kind of caught my eye was Minshew going to Vegas. With Jimmy G being suspended for 5 games, I don't know exactly where he's going to land, but I don't expect him to really play a whole lot of snaps this season. But Minshew's a dog, man. Like we straight up talked about it. He had a tough time, putting it together to win. But that I think that ultimately is just a really young Colts team that just didn't really know how to put it all together. And for him to, be a starting quarterback that really didn't have the starting experience to kind of be thrust into that role when Johnson or Anthony Richardson got hurt. It's just a tough place to be. So I'm expecting that with a little fresh start in Vegas. They have an incredible defense too. They have a lot of fresh signings that they did as well. I love what Antonio Pierce is doing over there. So yeah, like I think that the Raiders are going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think Minshew's going to have a lot of options over there. So even though they lost Josh Jacobs, I do think that they're doing a lot of good things over there. So if they can build properly around Minshew, then we'll see if he can get them back into the playoffs. I'd love to see the Raiders be back to a winning season.
Mhm. Yeah, they're a fun team. I mean, you got Devontae Adams, so you can never go
Yeah.
wrong having him on the squad. And then after drafting Michael Mayer last year, we got to see him develop a little bit, as well as I think it was Jacoby Myers is there, and then I think Renfro's a free agent now. But yeah,
Yeah.
they got some pieces. Amir White's no scrub, but he was backing up Josh Jacobs, and then anytime he got to play, he did well. So I expect him to take a big leap next year, getting the starting minutes.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that just wraps it up for quarterback. There's still some backups that happen. I know Jameis went to Cleveland. A couple other backups got shifted around.
Ritter was
Yeah.
just traded to Arizona for Rondale
Hmm.
Moore, so that's another piece for the Falcons offense.
Yeah, for sure. I like the way the Falcons are shaping up around Kirk. I think they kind of realized that Ritter wasn't going to be their franchise guy, so I think that making the move now makes sense. Getting rid of their head coach, who really is kind of just meh, and trying to find somebody that is really going to propel them made a lot of sense. And so far, the moves make sense. So I like what the Falcons are doing so far. I think they have a really good shot to take it to the Bucks this season. I don't as much like where the Saints are at. But we'll see. And then, yeah, let's kind of move on to the running back market because that was the biggest thing for sure in
Crazy.
free agency so far. Saquon to the Eagles, obviously, is probably one of the biggest. Josh Jacobs to the Packers, talked a little bit about that with him leading Vegas. I do think that the Packers are going to be a great fit for him. They're a super young team. And if he can kind of step into a leadership role over there, I think that they're going to be really solid next season because even though they lost Bakhtiari, I expect them to go and get a big guy in the draft. And I feel like their offensive line has been pretty solid and stable, even with Jordan Love back there and just kind of giving him some time to progress and get that experience so he can be better. And obviously, towards the end of the season, we saw that Jordan Love's going to be that guy. It's just about giving him his time. So yeah, I love that. I love Josh Jacobs with the Packers. Tony Pollard left Dallas, went to the Titans, where
That's it.
Derrick Henry left and went to the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens, obviously, we were all over them last season, lost to the Chiefs there, and just what was a really rough game. I think the addition of Derrick Henry is going to give a lot of propellant to that team, and they're going to be able to kind of pick up where they left off last season, pick up steam, and I expect the Ravens to really be vying again for a top spot with that pickup of Henry, just because they like if you think historically over the last few years for the Ravens, like ever since Lamar's gotten there, they haven't had a running back, like a true running back one. Every single one of their running backs ends up tearing an ACL or like having a leg injury that lasts the entire season. And they end up on like a running back four that's just not a true runner. So I'm really interested to see how the Ravens are going to be with a true running back one. And Lamar, like if they have a run pass option with Henry and Lamar, that's going to be filthy. And then Henry also being able to run Wildcat is going to add a whole nother dimension to that offense. So it's going to be crazy. I'm really looking forward to see. I hope they completely change the playbook for Baltimore because they should. I think that they should completely target everything around those two guys in the backfield and then just go from there. Zay Flowers will get his. Mark Andrews will get his. I think everything will work out really well. But I do love that pickup for Baltimore.
Yeah, I was wishing that they were going to make that before the trade deadline because it would have been a perfect fit with
Mm-hmm.
everybody having gone down. I think they went and got Dalvin Cook instead, who
Mm-hmm.
is a free agent, I believe, still. But yeah, that'll be an interesting move for sure. Obviously, we saw Eckler's now with Washington as well. Dan
Yep.
Campbell's been making a ton of moves over there in Washington. Gus Edwards left for the Chargers. Yeah, I mean, it's been chaos. Joe Mixon was traded from the Bengals to the Texans. Texans are making tons of moves. They're going to be a super fun team to watch. The AFC is just getting more and more loaded, and
Mm-hmm.
the NFC I feel like is not. But at the same time, the Bears have made good moves. They could be nice.
Commanders.
Like Vikings, Commanders, Eagles, Niners continue to make moves.
Falcons. So
But yeah,
yeah, I mean,
it'll
there's
be fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
A few that we didn't talk about is Devin Singletary to the Giants. I feel like he's kind of one of those slept on running backs, and he kind of doesn't really get his worth. But I think that he could be good with the Giants. Obviously, losing Saquon's not going to be good for them, but it doesn't sound like it was a really good locker room with him in there, anyways. So
Yeah.
hopefully, Singletary will be able to kind of fill that void for them, and they'll be able to figure things out offensively. Not too much against the Cowboys, at least, but hopefully, at least a challenge against the Eagles and the Commanders. And then DeAndre Swift went to the Bears. That's another one. Like he's
That's a good one. Yeah.
obviously, yeah, obviously Saquon to the Eagles. He had to go somewhere, and I think the Bears are a perfect fit. If they manage to keep Justin Fields and not draft Caleb Williams, then I think that him and potentially Justin Fields could be a really scary duo in the back, just kind of like Lamar and Derrick Henry. Um, Swift kind of he runs with just some crazy anger, and if he gets into open space, he can make guys miss. So I would just love to see that duo together. I think it'd be really cool.
Yeah, I really hope that the Bears stick with Justin Fields, and then with that pick, they grab. They could even trade back a couple, grab Marv, and then just grab an O lineman. And
Mm-hmm.
then if I were them, I would kind of do what the Texans did last year, where they go out of their way and trade up for a higher pick and get a good D lineman as well. Because
Yeah,
that's really what they're missing is a good D lineman, good O line. And then, I mean, if they had Marv with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore and let Justin Fields cook,
yeah.
I mean,
Let him
DeAndre
run.
Swift
Yeah,
there, Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson are both solid, so it'd be fun to see what happens over there in Chicago. Same thing
yeah,
could be said with Caleb Williams, whether they get him or not. If they did, I'm sure they would trade, Justin Fields to a Washington or something like that, who doesn't have a quarterback right now. So we'll see what direction Dan Quinn goes.
yeah. For sure, it'll be interesting to see whether they draft or they decide to sign a veteran because it seems so far like he's been prone to signing veterans that are just looking for moves, like looking to make a little bit of money. So I like what he's been doing so far. But kind of moving to wide receivers. T. Higgins got franchise tagged, but he obviously requested his trade because he wanted to get paid. Um, Obviously, like I don't know how that's going to affect the team chemistry, especially since I really was on the Bengals last year. I thought that that was kind of their year to put it together, but obviously with the injuries and everything coming together, it just didn't work out. Um, I don't know kind of how much faith to put in the Bengals with him requesting a trade. Um, so we'll see. I do love Michael Pittman Jr. signed a massive contract extension with the Colts. I think that like that is a massive move for the Colts. They haven't done a whole lot of like big, like signings or contract extensions, anything like that recently that like I can really think of. So I think that like is a really solid move for them. He's clearly been their wide receiver number one for the past 2 or 3 years, and he continues to perform like it even
Mm-hmm.
with the drama around the team with Jonathan Taylor and whatever quarterbacks back there. I still think Pittman Jr.'s got a lot to prove, and he for sure. I mean, next 3 4 years, I think he's going to be a top fantasy wide receiver. I'm not sure exactly where he ended up last year, but I'm sure it was up there.
Yeah, probably top 15. He's a
Mm-hmm.
solid player, and yeah, like you said, I don't see the Colts sign many players for big deals. I think the last one might have been when they got DeForest Buckner from the Niners.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that's an exciting move for them. Going to be interesting to see what they do. Obviously, Minshew carried them into a 500 season this year. Anthony Richardson's now going to be back and healthy. Uh, I mean, I said it last year. I didn't like him. I don't like him, but I hope he does well because that would be a
Mm-hmm.
fun division between the Jags, the Texans. I mean, if the Colts can be good again,
If he can
even the
get his
Titans.
accuracy honed in, I feel like they're going to be raw because he obviously can sling it. It's not about the arm strength. It's not about the speed and the agility. It's just going to be about his accuracy.
Mhm. Yeah, because I mean that division in general, it's going to be fun. Jags should be solid. Texans, I really like the moves they're making. The Titans now have Calvin Ridley with D Hop with Pollard. I mean, they could be exciting as well. So we'll see what
Yeah, for
happens, and
sure.
if they stick with Levis as well, because I guess you never really know.
Yeah, and he's gonna have a lot of pieces there now. Even with losing Henry, obviously it sucks because you don't have the best blocking running back in the league behind you, 240 pounds. But I still think the Titans are going to be a force to be reckoned with as long as Levis has the people to throw the ball to, and it seems like they're going to have the pieces around him. So as long as they can stack that offensive line again, they should be decent. So I'm looking forward to that team too.
Yeah, I think they're going to fall off a little bit just because they got rid of Mike Vrabel. And
Yeah, true.
I think he's one of the best coaches, and I think he
Yeah, no
just got
doubt.
picked up yesterday. I think as an assistant for it might have been like the Falcons or something like that. Actually,
I
I have
can
to
look it
look that
up.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
go for it. I'm trying to think where it was. It might have been Washington, but I think it was the Falcons actually.
The Browns.
The Browns. That's what it was. Yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
was.
that's a good
That'll
hire
be
for them. I
exciting.
like that.
Chubb
Yeah,
will
I
be
like that a
back.
lot.
Amari Cooper's a stud. Deshaun Watson's going to be healthy. Their
Top five
defense
D.
is already phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah. Now you put Vrabel over there. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. They'll be stacked. But kind of going back to wide receivers, you got Mike Evans that re-signed with Tampa Bay. That's huge. Like with Baker only taking 33 million a year, that obviously gave them plenty of room to sign Mike to a massive contract extension. So I love that. Um, Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs. We talked a
That's
lot
big.
last season. Like, obviously, we are a little bit of Chiefs haters because they clearly didn't have the offensive firepower that they had previously in the
Mhm.
Super Bowl before against the Eagles. But obviously, they just had the team camaraderie and chemistry to get it done last year, and the defense. I talked about it a little more towards the end of the season, but that defense was unbelievable.
Mhm.
They signed Chris Jones to another big deal, so I imagine they're just going to get better on defense. With Hollywood Brown, though, they're going to get back to that speed that they've been missing. He's sure hands. They're
Mhm.
going to have a whole different playbook this season because he is going to be able to provide the go routes and just widen the field for them to spread the ball out. And I
Mhm.
think that's not only going to help the other receivers get more targets and get better, like more open for these targets, but I think Kelsey's going to have, like, if they're going to have two guys on him and the field's wide open, somebody's going to be open. So I think it's going to be scary for the Chiefs. Like, I don't know how defenses are going to be able to read that, especially with Andy Reid calling plays. It's something that's just like almost impossible to go against. Patrick Mahomes playing quarterback, best O line in football. Travis Kelsey, one of the best tight ends ever, and Andy Reid, arguably top three coach ever.
And
So
Spags defensively has
yeah,
carried them
probably
to
a
Super
top two
Bowls.
coach
So
defensively ever. So it's just crazy. Respect to the Chiefs, they're doing the right things in the front office and getting everybody re-signed, but obviously it sucks knowing that they're just going to be rolling again. As long as they got Mahomes, Kelsey, a decent O line, and that defense, they're going to be fine. So, yep, that kind of sucks. But then Curtis Samuel to the Bills. It's a big pickup for them since they lost Gabe Davis, who left for the Jacksonville Jags. I love that pickup for the Jags since they lost Calvin Ridley. They really needed someone to fill that void. And Gabe Davis has been sure hands. I love Gabe Davis. I think he's super underrated. He was like wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in Buffalo, but I just feel like um, with Jacksonville, he has an opportunity to be a true wide receiver 1 if he can kind of step into that role and take the veteran leadership role. I
Mhm.
think that he'll be really good over there. Calvin Ridley obviously left to the Titans. Darnell Mooney went to the Falcons, so that's another big wide receiver that the Falcons are picking up for Kirk Cousins. And then obviously Rondell Moore that you had already talked about got traded to the Falcons in that trade for Ritter. So I mean the Falcons are going to have Pitts, Moore, Mooney, Drake London, and then on top of that Bijan in the backfield with who's
and
the other running
Algier
back?
still, yeah,
Algier.
Tyler Algier, yeah.
So I mean, the Falcons are going to should be stacked again, like on the offensive side for weapons at least. So hopefully they'll be able to turn it more around. And I've enjoyed seeing what they've put together so far in this first couple weeks of the free agency period.
Yeah, and they got rid of Archer Smith, so that's a
Yeah.
blessing for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so it'll be fun. A lot of players on the move, every
Yeah.
position really, but especially on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah.
Um,
But O lineman Tyron Smith just left Dallas for the Jets.
for the
Obviously, Dallas
Jets,
couldn't get him paid. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. I don't know if anybody does, but yep, Tyron to the Jets. Aaron Rodgers is going to have a literal vending machine watching his back this year, so not expecting any Achilles injuries. Um,
yeah,
Jonah Williams went to the Cardinals. That's good for Kyler Murray. Give him someone to run behind. Jonah Williams, pretty agile for a tackle, so I really expect that he's going to be able to allow Kyler to get out of the pocket. So I think that's a really good pickup for them. Obviously, on the defensive side of the ball, Chris Jones re-signed with the Chiefs. Christian Wilkins left for Vegas, so the Raiders are going to be crazy good up front with Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins up there. I don't know who's possibly going to stop that, but we will
Mhm.
see. So I'm really looking forward to that Raiders defense this year. Javon Kinlaw to the Jets. Raekwon Davis went to the Colts. Your favorite, I don't know how to pronounce this guy's name, Matabuke,
Yeah,
reassigns with the Ravens.
he's a
Eric
stud.
Armstead left for the Niners for the Jags. Obviously, they couldn't get him paid with everybody that's contracted. Daniil Hunter left for the Texans. Love that move. The Texans are. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the Texans are making massive moves that we both love.
Yep,
And then Lawrence Armstrong left Dallas as well for the Commanders.
Dorrance, yeah,
So,
yeah.
or sorry, Dorrance Armstrong. But yeah, I mean, a lot of defensive linemen moving, a lot of big guys signing. Chris Jones re-signing with the Chiefs, obviously, is like the big one. So expect the Chiefs defense to be solid. I love Christian Wilkins to Vegas. I think the Vegas team is going to be super fun to
Yeah,
watch.
I
That
love
defense
Christian
is going to
Wilkins.
be
Yeah,
flying. I expect them to draft a couple secondary guys because they're going to need it. But yeah, that
Mhm.
front eight is going to be disgusting. So looking forward to that. Kind of moving to linebackers. Queen signed with the Steelers. Patrick Queen, I think, signed with the Steelers.
Patrick Quinn. Yep.
Levante David re-signed with the Bucks. Devin White left for the Eagles. Bobby Wagner left for
Eagles.
the Commanders. Brooks left to the Dolphins, and Luvu went to the Commanders as well. So a lot of
And Quinn
not
stealing
a lot of
everybody.
not good things for the Cowboys, which sucks for us. But hopefully as things kind of develop over the next few months, we'll kind of see the stars start to align. But for now, it's a little bit scary to kind of look at what the
Yeah.
Cowboys have been doing and what they've been losing.
Jerry
So
Jerry's got to croak one of these days so that we can have a shot. But we'll see what
yeah, he
happens.
needs to hire a GM, man, because it's starting to get ugly.
Have
It's
apply.
definitely not. It's definitely not the '90s anymore. We're at a different generation of football, and I think Jerry's got to catch up to the times. It's 2024. Um, Cornerbacks: Kendall Fuller left to the Dolphins. Jordan Poyer also left to the Dolphins. I love those moves for the Dolphins.
I love
Two
Poyer.
veteran
Poyer's a
guys.
stud.
Yeah, two veteran guys that obviously are going to add a lot of experience to that defense. And with Javon Holland back there, I expect that secondary to be rolling.
Mhm.
So yeah,
They
and
lost
then
to X, so it'll be
true.
interesting to see where Xavier goes.
Hmm.
Because I don't think he's signed yet, but he's a stud.
Yeah, he's a top five corner for sure. And then Awuzie left for the Titans from the Bengals, and Mosley re-signed with the Detroit Lions. I love that. I think the
Mhm.
Lions have a lot of good things going for them again. Haven't seen too many moves that they've made in the offseason other than a few re-signs. But hey, they
Mhm.
performed great last season, so there
They
really shouldn't
re-signed
be too much to
Dan
do.
Campbell.
Yeah, that's the biggest move. Get MCDC back in there. That dude is a stud. He's got that team playing good ball. So I'm looking forward to the Lions too. They should be really good next season. Then last in the secondary, CJGJ is back in Philly. Obviously, that sucks for Cowboy fans. 3-year deal. I think he got like 33 million or something like that. But good deal for him. I preferred him in Detroit, but it is what it is. And
Yeah.
then Darnell Savage left for Jacksonville. So yeah,
Mhm.
that just about does it so far. We're gonna kind of keep updated as things start to turn over to the next season. But for now, we're just kind of trying to keep our eye out for everything that's going on and keep attuned to how these teams are starting to kind of match up and stack up against each other.
Yeah, we
But
can't forget
yeah,
about the goat Jake Elliott signing for
yeah,
$6 million a year as
yeah,
well.
true.
Dude, the kicker's making more money per year than Austin Eckler is running the ball for the Commanders. So shout
Yeah,
out to Jake. He deserves it. The guy's a ball. Like he's so good.
kick the
He's
ball 100
automatic.
times a year, you get paid more than a guy that carries the ball and gets tackled 300 times a year. So make
Yeah,
it make
exactly.
sense, but that's just the running back market.
Yeah, yeah. So that was cool for
Yeah,
the Eagles as well. He's a stud.
yeah, kind of closing thought. I mean, closing thoughts, but also let's talk about the Texans a little bit before that. The Texans are going to be unbelievable. Love the moves they're making. D'Amico Ryans obviously is taking that style that was instilled in San Francisco and just moving it straight over to Houston, and he's doing all the right
Yep.
things. They're going to surpass the Cowboys pretty quick here as the best team in Texas, and hopefully we'll be able to get it
Probably
back at
already
some point.
have. Yeah,
But I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
They're
with
gonna be
CJ
nice.
Stroud at the helm, it's pretty hard not to believe in that team and all the defensive moves that they've made. Yeah, I love where the Texans are at, man. It's tough not to love that team going forward. JJ Watt said it best, man. This Texans team is one to look out for. That crowd is back into
Mhm.
it. Everybody's back into it. They're kind of like the
Those red
Kings.
unis are sexy.
Oh my
So
gosh, they're sweet. They're
yeah.
kind of like the Sack Kings, of a couple years ago, where they're back. They're finally a decent team. Couple solid seasons back to back, I feel like are coming for the Texans, and they're back on the
Mhm.
map for sure. So yeah,
Yeah, I
some of your
love the
closing
Danielle
thoughts?
Hunter,
Yeah,
Danielle Hunter, Aziz Al-Shaair. They had a couple good corner pickups as well. They got Dalton back, Noah Brown. I mean, Nico Collins will be healthy. Tank Dell's going to be healthy. Adding Joe Mixon. I think if they can draft a couple linemen, they're going to be really good. I'm
yeah,
excited
for
to
sure.
see how they can do next year.
Yeah,
So
and I mean, I'm sure there's also going to be a couple old balls out there that are going to look for somewhere to go that might get them a chance to win a ring, and I think that Houston could be a solid spot to go. No income taxes, so it's a good spot to get paid as well. But yeah, Texans I think are on the up and up.
Stephon Diggs made a couple comments on his Twitter, changed all of his information as well, and put
Ooh,
like a waving emoji. I saw that earlier today. So he could be one of those big name receivers that someone can go grab him. And that if that's the Texans going out of their way to make a move, they're going to be disgusting. So I'm kind of hoping and rooting for the Texans this year because the Cowboys aren't going to do anything.
Well, the
Um,
Cowboys need to go get him now that Gallup is gone. Like, now that Gallup is gone, you
yeah,
have to go get him now because they haven't made any
yeah.
significant moves, and that's going to have to be the one if they're going to do
Sig-
anything.
Significant moves. We re-signed the long snapper. What else do you want from Jerry? What do you want from Jerry? I don't know.
I guess a 10-year contract for Brandon Aubrey.
Let go of Gallup. Let go of
Uh,
Van Der Esch. Haven't paid Dak. Haven't paid C. Haven't paid Micah. Haven't paid Gilly. Haven't paid
Pollard's
Curse.
gone.
Pollard's gone. Tyrone Smith's gone. Like I don't know what they're doing. They're just kind of waiting. I feel like
It,
Jerry might
it
be taking notes from Pat Riley and just be like sleeping during the trade
Yeah,
deadline.
I was
So
gonna say it literally just feels like they're just sitting back and watching everybody leave, and it's like, cool. So nobody's got any more faith in us. We're gonna suck.
yep,
So
yeah,
yeah,
that's what it
that's kind of
seems
where
like.
we're at. Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. Commanders are
Hopefully
getting
we
a
can
lot
turn it
better.
around.
The Eagles keep getting better. Commanders are getting better. Giants keep sucking with us. So at least we have them keeping us company.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
but yeah, no, it'll be interesting. Mike Thomas is still out there. Diggs has these things going on. We haven't re-signed Brandon Cooks either, so it's going to be really interesting. Um, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Plenty of
Yeah.
free agents to go. Justin Simmons is
Yeah.
still out there on the market. X is still out there. So there's some good players. Jerome Baker. So we'll see kind of how the rest of the offseason shapes up, and then leading up to the draft. Um, we got all the championship games on for college basketball right now, so we're kind of transitioning into that as we get the bracket released in the next week or so. Excited
Sir.
to get into that. Excited for the WNBA bracket as well, or WNCAA women's bracket as well. That's exciting. I mean, any March Madness is fun. Men's
Yeah.
or women's. Ready to get into that. And as soon as that ends, we'll be diving straight into the NBA and hockey playoffs as well.
True.
Got to a couple Canes games. They look good, except if they're playing Shesterkin because the Rangers are nice and Shesterkin's the goat.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Uh,
that tends to happen a lot when Shesterkin's the goalie.
yeah, I was like the guy's a menace. But yeah, fun teams. The Maple Leafs are good. The Vancouver Canucks are good. Panthers are good. Knights are good. Kings are good. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with hockey this year as well.
Yeah, for sure. And then yeah, Formula One, obviously on and off week, but next week we'll be in Australia. So hopefully sometime next week we'll get some time to kind of talk about some more free agency stuff and we can talk a little more about Australia because I don't know too much about that track yet, but I am planning on learning in my sim. And then other than that, UFC kind of has a boring card. Vegas 88 this weekend. Tuivasa and Tabura. Only picks I really have are Brian Battle. I really like him to win that fight. I think he's like minus 200. So tail cautiously. And then Tuivasa against Tabura in the main event. I expect that under 3.5 rounds. That's at like minus 400 right now. So if you parlay those two together, you might get around even money. And I think that's pretty solid. So that's about it for UFC this weekend. I don't really like the card too much, so I'm not going to spread too much hate on it. But yeah, hopefully this will kind of get us juiced up for UFC 300 because that one's going to be a banger. So yeah, thank you guys all for kind of tuning in and catching up with us. We look forward to kind of talking more about the free agency buzz going around in the next few months. And yeah, until next week, we'll see you guys then. Peace.
All right. See you.